Board of Finance?
Yeah, I know,
There you go.
got 5 of them here. All very.
I
I'll
guess
call
I
this
just
meeting to
wanna-
order. Board of Finance meeting. We got a election of officers. What all the officers do we have on that, Florinda?
So just
It's just
President,
normally president and then secretary
Okay.
is what you.
One of the commissioners have to be president of that board.
Yes,
Okay.
Just one, not all 3 though, right?
yes.
Yeah. And whatever you guys want to do, I think one of you guys ought to do one of these. It's up to you.
Braden, you want to be president? I mean, I don't have it.
You only meet once a year?
Yes, unless you want to meet me.
That's why I read and I go, well, what do you know?
Why
Why are we even doing this?
We have,
Except that's required, I know,
yeah,
that part.
we have to choose the main depository, which is always here. That makes the most sense for the county. It would be a little ridiculous to have to drive somewhere to make deposits.
We can't get that .00001 over there?
We actually, they pay us 0.15 on our main account, which is
15 cent percent?
sorry?
15%?
0.15.
Percent?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, which is higher right now than Trust Indiana. So,
The bank pays more than Trust Indiana now?
yes, for the main account. So, what I've asked the State Board of Accounts is because prior to me taking office, Trust Indiana was only used for specific things. If that person who controlled that fund wanted that in there, everything else was left over there. But then I started questioning it and working with the auditor on what we really could do. So that's when we started moving individual funds. We always had what we called total monies. That was part of the county overall monies that we had in Trust Indiana. But my question to the State Board of Accounts now is, because when everything was kept in this main depository, those funds earned interest, but all of that interest went back into county general. So if I took the monies that are in Trust Indiana and put them all back there, because it's a higher interest rate.
In local bank?
Yes.
Okay.
Then would we still be required to cut out to each fund what they actually earned from their money? And I don't have an answer.
You're talking about the question, the interest bearing from those accounts where it goes, if you put it in a bank versus...
Right, because we have $20 million in Trust Indiana.
Before we get there, maybe we should have elections? Or is this something precedes elections?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Can you not be president also?
I don't know.
I think you can. The Board of Finance is who? One commissioner, the treasurer?
I have not looked at that one for a long time. Let me see if I can find it.
I looked at it, but it's been a month. I don't remember who's on it.
And what advantage would there be to that? To having the treasurer be both?
Be both of what? Treasurer and
President and treasurer.
I personally wouldn't recommend it.
I think there's only 3 members to the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance, I don't know if there's any advantage or disadvantage for that matter.
I would rather for my personal opinion, one of the commissioners be board president. And I'm not saying me, because I don't want to, I got other things going on, but I think that,
We gotta find out who's on the board first.
It's always, I've never looked at it, it's always been commissioners and the treasurer as,
Well, that's one thing
As
we're
the
gonna
same.
get, I think, I'm not in favor of, is three commissioners sitting on all these boards every time.
Mhm.
Like the solid waste board, you got 3 commissioners sitting on it, and the drainage board, you got 3 commissioners sitting on it, and it's, we might as well have another commissioners meeting.
this is only requiring one here, so
Yeah.
that's a different
Yeah, I know.
situation.
Do we have any luck there, John?
I'm still looking.
Just think if you had to go through the books on this.
We're making him earn his pay.
Have to buy books every year.
would it?
Well, we can name an acting president for now until we find out how many positions we got.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna hurt anything.
Would it be 3, because if there's, if the 2 aren't in agreement, then who breaks the tie?
Well, I'm not sure what does the board of finance do? I thought it was just they approve where the monies are gonna be deposited, correct? Or investment or whatever, yeah.
if
And then
you-
they have to approve all the salaries or all the outlay of money for salaries and pay for
That
everybody.
has nothing to do with
Then-
this,
Okay.
nothing to do
I
with
thought Board of Finance had to, for some reason, approve that.
Mainly, all you do as a president is approve where the money goes for the depository, right? And the rest is just an
Well,
advisory.
Typically.
Because everything else is
typically
made done by
there's a
you, and you come here just to advise to see what you're doing, right?
vote.
Because really, the board don't really have no control over the
But they do
office.
over the investment.
Do what?
If the board says the county monies are gonna go to Joe's bank over here, then that's where they
Yeah, on
gotta
the
go.
depository.
Right.
But on the rest of it, I think it's a decision there, so it's limited, it's
Well,
mainly
I'm not saying it
advisory.
does much. Are we recording
But
this?
it's not paid either.
Yeah,
Right? The board's not paid.
we need to get a president if we're being recorded.
It's gonna be one of you two.
When you want it, or, I mean, it don't matter.
It
I
is
thought
the-
you wanted to do it.
It's the
Sure,
Board
go
of
ahead, that's fine.
Commissioners
Yeah.
and the
I make a
county
motion-
treasurer.
I make a motion for R.J. Donovan to be
I second,
president.
because he
of
came from the council.
He's
Sure.
reading it.
It's the Board of Commissioners and the county treasurer.
All commissioners.
That's what the
Board
legislature
of
gave you.
Commissioners.
The Board of Commissioners and the
three.
county treasurer, in each county together constitute the county Board of Finance.
Okay.
So they really don't need no president. There ain't nothing that says you gotta have a president, is there?
So far, no.
Well, it need to be somebody run the meeting, or call a meeting even though they only have maybe one meeting.
Well, we made a motion, right?
I
Yeah,
did.
I second it, so.
Let's do it properly.
Let's just-
though. I make a
Who?
motion that R.J. Donovan be president of the Board of Finance.
I second.
Any,
I guess
Yeah.
I'm
any
I'm a-
discussion?
Any discussion?
It's got a president and a secretary.
Okay.
And
there
the
you go.
secretary doesn't have to be the treasurer of the
Right.
county.
Right. Right.
So, we got discussion, we're done with it. Any discussion on this? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain? Motion passed.
Well, are you abstaining?
I'm sorry,
Are you abstaining also?
I'm not a voting member, am I? I never
That's
have.
what we don't know.
Didn't say that you're not a voting member.
It don't say you are either.
It's an oddity that they created a 4-person board. Almost every board is an odd number.
What did you say again? The Board of Finance is the commission?
The Board of Commissioners and the county treasurer.
Yeah, you're on it.
So,
So you have a vote.
I'll
Yeah,
send you
well-
guys the code section.
So you're abstaining, or are you voting
I'm
yea or
voting.
nay? Hmm?
Yeah, I'm voting, yes.
Yes, okay.
So, unanimous vote.
Now now you have the
Now
gavel.
you take the gavel.
Oh,
You
take the
preside
gavel
over this
now.
meeting.
Now you need a secretary. And I make a motion that our treasurer be the secretary for the Board of Finance.
Second.
Second, I approve.
Any discussion?
Surrender?
No?
I abstain.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You don't object? I'm just asking you.
Motion passes.
Just make sure you get the minutes down.
Is there anything else on the?
The auditor
agenda?
will help you.
Okay, so,
So now we go ahead to the investment report. That's your call.
well, and here's, you got this already, but here's what's the latest report from Trust Indiana. I just, don't wanna leave money on the table. I've, tried to negotiate with the bank to raise it even higher if we're talking about $20 million back in their, bank, but they said no, they're already above everyone else, so.
That's something else, the FDIC insure accounts up to what?
Yeah, that's what I was,
Yeah, I mean, there's a limit. If you put so much money, and you hold that, there's a limit. So I'm saying with this large amount of money.
It's different for, and John, maybe you can answer to this. It's different for, counties.
institutions.
I don't know off the top of my head, I can try to find the statute.
So I'm
on
just
that.
saying,
Right.
is
I know what
there
you're
any
saying.
risk there? Because they'll maintain a certain amount of money up
I
for
was
years.
thinking the same thing, because I know on private accounts you are at risk when you go
Up
over.
to 200,000 or something.
And
Something
there's,
like that.
There's a list of ones that we can participate
Acceptable.
in and ones we cannot, so.
Sure. But I do think we should keep it local, as well, get the best price we can, but we should keep the monies locally if we can. And
How
I-
many,
We
is
have-
it, is
We
there,
will always put the money back into the fund that earned it with Trust Indiana. So your community crossings grant, had its money back, deposited back into that fund. And looks like there's $362.87 still in that fund.
okay.
And the reason we've done that in the past is because there are certain funds by statute that are required to, if their fund earns interest, it's required to be put back into that fund. Whereas I prefer not to track the laws and see who's required to and who's not. So it's easier just to put all of the funds back into the funds. But it wasn't being done when the money was there before,
Okay.
so
So that's your question you have to us.
that's the
for us.
question I have for the State Board of
Okay,
Accounts,
okay.
how it has to be.
Okay.
So
Question
my-
though is that, who allocated these monies accordingly to these? Did the council do that?
No, those are just what were available to be invested in the fund. Today, when checks are ran, there will be a report that shows if any of this money has to be pulled out to cover the checks that are going to be sent on Friday. The money stays there until it's needed.
And you try to pull it out of the appropriate accounts, I take?
I pull
So if
it,
it comes out of
yes.
the surveyor's perpetuation fund, you pull
Right.
that out of that?
We'll
and-
get, but there is money in those funds, just a limited amount that's still on the auditor's side. Well,
Who put it in there though?
I did.
So you do it, you decided on all these? That's a chore. How do you know
Because-
what to do?
Because if the money's sitting there earning no interest, then it needs to be, we started out.
I don't mean the interest, I mean like, highway capital
We get a
improvement,
report.
720,000.
We get a report
From who?
from the auditor's side on how much is in the funds.
Well, who set the fund, that's what I'm getting at. Who put the original amount in?
It
It's their
comes
budgets.
from.
It's their budgets and money that comes in. It's from their budgets. Like if they set their budget, if they have extra money sitting in there, she can go in and invest the amount that's left over in there. If they need it to come out, like they go to pay a bill, the money goes back in. So it's a budget, it's budgeted at the end of the year.
Who budgets it?
The council.
Council.
So you guys divide all this up.
Yeah, it's I would encourage anyone to attend a budget hearing once in their life
you-
to look at that budget book and go page by page by page.
Well, isn't this something that the commissioners are supposed to do and then suggest it to the council?
Yeah, so each office holder does that. They come in, like the commissioners, they'll come in, or like, you know, for instance, in the years past, like surveyors or economic development will come in and go, yep, no changes to my budget, and they've left it the same for the last, I don't know, 10 years.
Okay.
Other offices, like the commissioners, the sheriffs, they'll come in and they'll have actual changes in them, and the council will debate them with
And then
them.
you account for all this. So if I come in and take something out of a fund, you find where it's gonna come out of and appropriately
Each
take
fund
that
has a
out.
number,
Yeah, yeah.
but typically we leave it where it's at until they run a report saying, well, this fund needs $1,000 to balance the fund, and I'll pull $1,000 out of Trust Indiana back into the main account to cover that claim.
And that's based on the approved budget that the State Board of Accounts sends you?
Yeah, the money
Yeah.
wouldn't be there if it didn't,
Didn't have a source?
yes.
Right.
And some of those, like court perpetuation, that's so much from filing fees, recorders perpetuation is so much from recordings. Some
And
of those-
then when the fund goes dry, then we have to take it from another fund and put it in there, I take it?
No.
Mm-mm.
But
Where's it come
They
from?
can't spend money they don't have.
Well, there's certain things we have to. Say that we have a coroner to be paid, somebody died, so that's, from what I understand, that's like $2,000 bill.
And
Now
that's-
that, if that's empty, if that count's empty,
Then
we
they
still
have-
owe him $2,000.
They have to come and get an additional
The
appropriation
council
from the
has to approve
council.
it.
If
Which
they
they're
run
by
out of,
state statute, they have to, because there's no choice, but yeah, if account room's dry, they'll go to the council and ask for funding
Okay,
for additional. Any
They
other
can't-
questions for?
They can't spend money they don't have.
Yeah.
right. Makes sense. Well,
I don't,
Any other questions on the investment?
so you're gonna find out the answer from, it's not an
State
answer,
Board.
you're advising us, but the answer you're gonna get is from State Board of Accounts.
Well, I feel like they're the ones we have to satisfy.
That's
and-
if they give you a straight answer.
Well,
Yeah, but-
I always keep them in emails. I want them in emails so that
Yeah.
I can,
Yeah, but what happened formerly, it was in a bank.
it was
So if it was always in a bank, what was, what?
99.9% of it was always in the bank.
I know that, but I'm saying, what was the process of then, of doing with the interest? Was it,
All the interest went back into county general.
okay, that's my question. But you still got it segregated over there in each one of these. It ain't going into a lump sum, it's still going in, you got these allocated
to
As
different
long as
accounts.
it's in Trust Indiana. My question for the State Board of Accounts is if I move it all back over there, do I still need to keep track of these funds and how much money they're
Oh.
getting?
Man, that'd be rough.
did they break this out for you? Did they,
Trust
or did they just know that they have 20 million and that's so?
She made all this.
If you look at the back page, it has the total
Right.
of what's in there, total interest for 2020.
Is that all they send to you though, is?
I get
this?
I go onto the website and I can run the reports from there. But we started out, prior to COVID, we were over 2%, and now we're down to 0.08, 0.07. So the biggest amount of monies came before COVID.
Does the bank, do you tell the bank that it comes out of a certain fund, or do they only see one fund number?
They only see our main account.
So, that's why, so you have to do all the rest of it.
Right, and it can be done in a spreadsheet if that's what they're gonna require.
That's,
Just wanna say something.
makes sense, yeah.
Interrupt, but John just came up with something on this FDIC insured.
Yeah, they really don't treat us that differently from an individual. They insure us at the rate of $250,000 per official, and then there's a definition. The official is the person who has control over the money. So it could be debatable whether we have one or more than one persons who have control over the money, but it's in units of $250,000.
So would you say that is a risk?
That's a decision for you guys to make.
When it's in Trust Indiana, are we at risk for any of the money at the trust
No.
house?
I think that question needs to be answered by the bank.
Well, if that's in a, do we have a penalty or anything for withdrawal? Like if, can we
Nothing.
take it out, all of it out tomorrow, or today for that matter?
From Trust Indiana,
No, from
the bank,
bank,
no.
there's no penalties or?
We've never, we don't pay any kind of fees. Once in a
I
while.
would hope
they'll-
not.
Once in a while, they will charge us a fee, but then they take it back off because the system automatically does it. Bad check, that kind of thing.
I saw some fees from Old National, I thought, in the last voucher that we had, but anyway, I'll have to look at that closer.
Old National, they do, we keep a small amount in a checking account at Old National, only because they collect taxes for us during tax season. They also waive that fee.
We paid them something, I'd have to go back and look what it was, why we're paying them. But anyway, doesn't matter here or there. Well, if we're at risk and somebody at Old National, it's been known to happen, squanders the money, or what happens when they go bankrupt?
That's a question we need to address, if they're having that large of a.
Does it tie all of our money up at that point?
Well, we would have to file an insurance claim with the FDIC, and then they would go through that determination. How many officials did we have that were in charge of a fund, and were insured to the tune of $250,000 per such official that had access to a fund.
What do companies do because they bank with only one or two typically, and they have millions of dollars?
I don't know the answer to that.
They don't have $1 million to do it with.
They might insure privately. We could maybe make an inquiry if what private insurance would cost of such an account.
So if it's $250,000, we'd have to have 10 different banks, more or less. 9 banks.
We have a list of approved banks in the state. We cannot do anything outside of those. So I think there's must be more to it than just.
I would hope so, but
Where can we get, so according to what you're saying, FDIC is only going to insure $250,000 for each one that is on the.
Per official who
account.
has control over the money.
Okay.
There could be an argument as to what that means.
So if you take 4 of us, there's only going to cover $1 million.
I don't know, but I would just guess that it's probably who's ever on the signature card at that time. I mean,
And that's true.
I wouldn't count on more than $250,000 from FDIC.
No, I mean, we're talking about a large amount of money.
Now, they do cover more. They will. That's just the guarantee, that their guarantee is more, is $250,000. They have covered more than that.
most accounts have 2 on the signature card.
Yeah.
Still
We
not.
can't run the county on that. So,
I think if we can get some what do you think, get some verification on it?
I think that would be good.
It's not that, I'm sure that's come up somewhere else,
You know, all these
if
other
not here
towns and
before.
cities have got, larger amounts that they're dealing with local banks, so I'm wondering if it.
So for now, is it when we're at Bank for Main Depository, are we holding that? Are we gonna leave it in Trust Indiana for the time being?
She's got an Old National right now.
Or
No,
No?
First Financial.
Or financial.
Oh, First Financial.
sorry.
Old National has a couple $100 that we
Okay.
leave in there.
I don't know how I
Just
got-
to keep the account open, because when the banks collect for us, and they were a godsend this year, this last year, when they collect on our behalf, the customer brings the statement, they cannot pay without their statement, they pay at the bank, they have to pay exactly what the statement says, that money goes directly into our account. They don't send it to us, it goes directly into the account. And then when we get ready to do our settlement, we pull it into that.
And so when this thing settles down and we decide that Trust Indiana is a better place for it to go, there's no penalty, we just say transfer this money and they will do that.
It takes me about 2 seconds on the computer to
And-
transfer a
And,
fund.
and First Financial just says, oh, and that's all it's done?
They say, well, this actually, when Mike Carty was still on the council, I don't know if you ever were at a meeting where he talked about it. He retired from First Financial. He's first said this, why are we leaving that money there when we could be utilizing this?
Mhm.
So, just like anything that you change, it takes a little while to get people on board, because we've always done it this way. And, a little bit at a time, I worked with the previous auditor, and we started moving money. And I think everyone agrees now, it's so easy.
It is very easy.
And it's,
Too easy?
No, it makes it easy for us, like.
I'm kidding.
I know, but I enter the claims in, so when I enter them in, if I see that they're in the red, she's gonna know, hey, we need to get this and pull it, it's just simple.
that's why we approved the claims
Today.
earlier in the week, so that by the time, this takes overnight to
Mhm.
pull it back in. We approve the claims, they run the checks, they hold the checks, they don't go anywhere until
Till
Friday.
Friday.
But they also have a report that shows what's negative.
Mhm.
If it's invested in here, which that's the only way it can be negative.
Right.
Then I pull it back out into the main account, so that it will
See,
cover on Friday.
My understanding is your reason why you're moving it because the market has went down. The return in Trust Indiana is less than what you can get at a local
Yes.
bank.
Yes.
Like last year, you got $275,000 roughly of return on your money,
Right.
so
Mhm.
you're just being, you're going best place where you can get the best deal.
The most interest, and if you're
Okay.
talking double.
And tomorrow, if the change of Trust Indiana, you can just push the button, push it back over there and put it back in there.
I have to do it individual by fund.
What is our burn rate now?
Burn rate,
Yeah, per month. How fast do we go through the 20 million? Or a portion thereof?
it's constantly being replenished.
Okay.
We
We don't know.
Last pay, I didn't have to take anything out of here.
Probably won't have to for a while now, since it's at the beginning of the year, and when everything's been budgeted in, you probably won't have to take anything out on my end.
Yeah. I only move it if I need to. If they say,
So our income in the county is, how much do we spend in the county on the average then, each month?
that would not
Nobody knows?
be.
I can pull it up on a
Yeah.
report. I mean, I don't know right offhand, but I can pull it. It's easy. It's just boom, 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 we've got it.
We
It'll
don't
take-
run this like a business, do we?
I think they do a pretty good job.
Well, if you're CEO of RJ's Restaurant, and you don't know how much you're spending each month, I mean, that,
Well, if you want the information, we can get it to you.
There's constant money coming in,
Yes.
going out, constant.
yeah, income and expenditure. But who
And-
monitors that?
And part of the checks and balances of the two.
We do in the commissioners?
Of the two offices.
You know, okay, what is our expenses for on the average each month?
I think
We can get
did-
that all to you after the meeting, we'll
I
provide it all
think
to
we
you.
spent
You can look at all of it.
758,000 was this payroll, was close to that, is what we paid out, but that was lit tax, edit, public safety to the townships. It's a little higher this time, but I would say
Do our
this-
commissioners in the past ever ask?
No. I've never worked with the commissioners, so I couldn't tell you
I
that.
can't recall the question ever coming up.
Okay.
We can delve into more later. I mean, and you
Well,
guys-
I know, there's a whole lot
Yeah.
to do, but
It's
I'm not
just-
looking for something to do, I'm just asking.
You're asking, you're gonna get it.
So do we have a choice for the main bank for depository then?
To me, there's only one choice, unless, I mean, if we were in a more highly populated area, I know in some of the bigger counties, they actually have couriers that will come, I mean.
It's convenient to walk across the road and.
Right, and we
Yeah.
have two choices, we have Old National and First Financial, that's
Right.
it.
So for the record, we need a choice then for the bank depository.
You're just, you're making a recommendation, want our approval. You're the man.
What's your guys'
For
the First
I'm-
Financial?
Can we
that
not
you're-
leave that to the treasurer's discretion on that, or not?
Does it need for the record, that need stated, John, which bank depository?
Yeah, there's just, you just have to have some record of what decision
Yeah,
that
like
you
a-
guys are
It can't be
making.
discretionary to the treasurer, though. Is that what you're saying?
I don't,
I don't know that you would be prohibited from doing it. You could leave it within her discretion.
And the liability to that is?
You can delegate authority but not responsibility.
Okay.
So the buck would still come back to the people who made that decision.
Sure, sure. So it is possible, but,
Does it say that?
how often will we need, I guess, every time that you want to move the money, say, back to, well, to somebody else, we would have to have another meeting, I take it, then, to
No.
do that?
no. We haven't. We haven't, because my job is to try to earn the most interest. So wherever I'm getting the most, that's what I wanna do. We've,
Well, I understand, but how do you, if we have to tell you where, or if we have to, the Board of Finance has to say where it's going, we would have to have another meeting if you were to move it,
Unless
right?
we leave it at the discretion
Of the
of the
treasurer.
treasurer. Would that be your guys' recommendation?
That's what I was kinda getting
Yeah.
at.
Would you guys like to leave it at the discretion of the
I
treasurer?
think, I think that's the way to do it, and the only, she can just advise us, that, you know, that this
Yeah.
is what I'm looking at,
'Cause I mean,
advisory.
she's trying to get the county's most money moving it,
Are you
so-
bonded for 20 million?
We can change that.
not, the,
If, but you're moving things anyway at your own discretion as it is, or have in the past.
as it's needed.
Yeah,
So there's no change of process, really, I mean, what she normally does.
well, I'm not arguing, that's why I said yes at first, and then,
So is that what you guys wanna do, leave it at the discretion of the treasurer?
and the checks and balances are that we get a report every
Yeah.
month, right? Of what has been put in and what's taken out,
And this isn't.
of which we
this-
don't look at.
This isn't.
Be careful
all-
now.
This isn't all of the investments. We do have one that's, in cum reassessment, that's in a CD, because that's what the assessor chose, since that's her fund. So it's in a CD.
A 90-day CD, or,
I'd have to look. and
well, why
see.
does she have a say-so on that?
Because it's $1 million,
Okay,
and it's hers. It's not something that
how's that any different than anybody on here?
these.
I'm sorry, I'm ignorant of this
a lot of
situation, I guess.
these- A lot of, well, yeah, I don't know.
A lot of
Because
these
that's the way it's
questions you
been.
can address after the meeting, you know.
A lot of
they get
these
you all the
are-
information
Well,
you need.
unless we're in a hurry, why not discuss it now? At least get
We
the
have-
questions out there.
Yeah.
Apparently, we are in a hurry.
Well, you have his for him, I don't know if he has to get back to work.
Oh, yeah, we have that
Yeah,
coming up.
exactly.
Well,
They're good questions, and and it need to be.
well, then we need to have another meeting then, I guess. Let's get the questions out there, and
Yeah.
then we can make.
And that, it depends, I mean, you can't, most of these funds can't be put in a CD, because we can't tie up the money.
Yeah. How long did this?
That one can be, because that's a significant amount, and she still gets a budget that she works with.
Well, she shouldn't have that money then.
Well,
I'm serious. Yeah, I'm serious. That doesn't sound right. It may be right, but it doesn't sound right.
Yeah, we can address that and think about it, figure out what more information for you, and get us all
Yeah,
on
we
the
can,
same
we can have
page.
another meeting.
Yeah.
Just to give you a little background, I'm not a public finance person, okay? But I have been involved in projects and management of funds for companies. And I would think this wouldn't operate, I know government does operate somewhat differently, or maybe a lot differently, but the only government financing I've been involved in is for bonding and for like sewer projects and water projects. And I know our accounting for those are pretty tight, of which doesn't appear we are, compared to that anyway.
I do know on that fund, they used to the council used to require her to pay one of her employees out of it. I don't believe that she does any longer.
What is it for? I'm sorry. I didn't hear
That
what.
Hume Reassessment Fund.
Okay.
Is it a 90-day CD, or do we know? Or
I think it
5
was,
year?
I think it was a year.
Or 1 year? CD?
I'd have to look.
Why don't we have another,
That just doesn't sound right.
why don't we have another meeting after the next meeting and continue this discussion? I mean, more thorough.
I'll find out about the
Yeah.
Hume reassessment.
Yeah,
for
Get
you.
you, we all need to get up a list of questions and
And hopefully
have
I'll
them.
have some state board of account input.
Yeah.
But you got enough direction now to, or not,
I'm not gonna do anything until they,
status quo? Okay.
So for
Get
the
back with
record,
you.
the bank main depository, we're leaving at the discretion of the treasurer. You guys in favor of
Well, she says leave it status quo.
status quo? I'll leave it.
And then we'll come back and address
Okay.
where we're, once we get these questions answered, or at least most of us are comfortable where we're at.
Okay. That's fine.
And part of the problem with talking with State Board of Accounts is I would much rather be having a conversation, not an email, not even over the phone, an eye-to-eye conversation, because I think sometimes, too often, things get lost in translation.
Oh, I know they do.
And, and we haven't had that capability because
Sure.
of COVID. So I'm hoping this year, we actually get some face time
Very soon.
with those.
Well, thank you.
So you guys in favor of scheduling another meeting after the next evening meeting, or do you want it after the next morning meeting?
The morning meetings.
We'll have to be after a morning.
Morning
meeting.
meeting?
Yeah.
It
Brenda,
can't
could
get
you
pretty
add that
late.
to the?
I've got a bedtime.
So do I just don't always get it. So is there any other comments?
What about the secretary? She's the secretary, he's president, right?
Yes.
Correct.
All right,
Who
anything
made
else
the
before the
motions
board?
on who made the motions on the president?
I made the motion
President, yeah, and then Tim Yocum seconded.
Board of Finance, will we be keeping memoranda or minutes? I guess that's a question before we adjourn.
I don't know that you're required to keep minutes. If you make a record, there's some rules about what happens with that record, so it's up to you whether you guys want to do a memoranda or minutes.
Are we doing memorandum for the commissioners?
Yes.
I would imagine if we want to do something like that, we do
I
it for this as
prefer it.
well.
I wouldn't want all this discussion, try to.
Try to write all that down.
Yeah.
All right, well, if there's nothing else for the board, a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Second? All right.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.